I've been meaning to wanting to ask you this for a few weeks now, ever since you did write some, your piece about Mitch Main and sort of celebrated and acknowledged the significance of his calling and so on. And there was this sort of sad, sort of frustrating phenomena within the existing gay Mormon community, where it was either, this is nothing new. Why are we even talking about this? It was with this air of bitterness. Why are we even talking about this? This isn't new, or this isn't good enough. Until he's married to a man in the temple, and then he's called to a bishopric. Until he's called, until he's married to a man and so on, and then I'll be impressed. Well, I want your read on that.
I love that. No, because here's the thing. Everybody kind of hated the Mitch Main story for so many different reasons. And I knew it was a story that had to be told for two reasons. One, because it made people's heads explode who were inside the church and have such a distorted view of gay Mormons that they simply could not wrap their minds around the idea that a gay person who affirmed themselves as gay could be, right? I mean, after...
An unrepentant sort of...
Yeah, just, I am gay, God made me gay. Ta-da! Yeah. And I love Jesus. And Mitch is such a teddy bear. That's the great thing about this. He's like, I just love Jesus so much. I'm like, good.
My Savior.
You're going to miss sex? But that's not my business. But anyway,
he also says, if I do fall in love again with
who knows what's going to happen, right? But I mean, I literally had Facebook friends who are not liberal Mormons, who are kind of like sweet, like more observant. Like a Latino Mormon from Idaho messaged me on Facebook and said, in all seriousness, does this mean he's straight now?
Whoa. Wow.
I said, no, he is not straight now. He is gay, right? And I had lots of kind of folks who have, for example, read my stuff for immigration issues, who might like come out my stuff that and not be as familiar on gay issues, like completely trying to wrap their heads around this concept. The way gay people have been demonized in the church through the Prop 8 campaign. I mean, there has been extreme rhetoric. And there's a whole set of people who still believe, I mean, the polls in Utah from a year ago, they did a survey, do you think people can change their orientation? I mean, it's like 60% of Utahns still think yes. We are clear as mud on sexual orientation issues in Mormon culture because we've been through this succession of explanations. Marry it away. You're just doing it because you're bored. You're doing it because it's a disease.
You're self-centered.
You're self-centered, and marry it away, go to therapy, pay $600 for a weekend retreat, and it's going to go away. No! You see, and people, I knew if I published the Mitch Main story, I wrote it in a very straight way, that some people's heads within the church would explode in a good way, right? It would challenge. And I also knew that it would make people on the outside who so misunderstand Mormonism and think that all it is a homophobia spewing, like, Westboro Baptist, church from Kansas, who again have seen this caricature of who we are. It would make their heads explode. And everyone in the middle would be vaguely dissatisfied. And, what can you do?
Interesting.
I mean, but I knew, and I tried to write it as precisely as possible, but I just wanted to tell that very plain story that an openly, unapologetically gay person wants to serve.
Right, which is not new too, but in some people's mind. It's
not at all new. In some people's mind, it's the
so
revelation.
Wait, if they're gay, don't they hate the church just like inherently? Or,
isn't that lifestyle what we're teaching our children? I got comments like that. Wait a minute, this is so confusing. Isn't that lifestyle what we're teaching? No, there's been so much bad teaching, bad information that has come in part because the church has allied itself to political campaigns in which we've kind of opened the doors and a lot of general just kind of propaganda about gay issues from very conservative sources just kind of melded in with Mormon discourse. It's not
accurate.
It's not accurate. It's not necessarily theologically accurate.
So how do we reshape the messaging within the community?
Oh heck, I don't know.
I mean, not even in speaking on behalf of like the institution or prescribing for the institution, but again, speaking from a person who has certain cultural sway, and me too with my job at BYU. That's what my job is, to make TV that influences the Mormon culture. How do we change the messaging from within, just on the cultural grassroots level?
I never go to church and think, today my goal is to change the messaging from within. Right? I keep it on the low at church. I'm just there.
Right.
I'm just there to be a Mormon and do what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's a lot of power in telling stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the more people who tell their stories about the many, many ways we negotiate what it means to be a Mormon in this life, how we live out our truth, how we interpret and, celebrate the tradition that our ancestors sacrificed for and passed down to us, the tradition that we paid for with our own life.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of ways to honor Mormonism. And the more stories of people who find those ways that work, that work and that keep us alive, and that nourish us, that will open up more possibility. And that to me is the most important thing. I don't know how to go around like an eraser and correct, thousands of years worth of homophobia.
Right. But it is in stories, lived stories like you're saying, Mitch Main and others.
Or yours, or everybody's got a story. And the thing is, it's like the feminist movement always is, like, everybody's got a gay person somewhere in the ward, the family, hang around, there's going to be a gay person in your life sooner or later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that Mormonism teaches us to be kind. I mean, those are traditional Mormon values. Those are values I was raised with in primary.
Sure.
Like, how many songs about kindness did we learn growing up, right? Sooner or later, that kindness will win out.
It's put to the test, but then it wins out,
I mean, it will have to win out. That's what it means to be a person of faith. I vote for kindness in the long run. Kindness will prevail. But, people will have cause over the course of their lives to re-examine.
Right.
And if they can learn stories that complicate their worldviews and that call them to think, I think they'll go the right way.
I mean, it happens to a lot of us individually, and almost, I would say, everybody in the culture and community, to some degree or another, that sort of sense of impasse or complication, like you're saying. But even the story specifically of homosexuality and Mormonism, like you're saying, it's going to hit all of us at some point. We all sort of have our coming out and coming to terms reconciliation process that we can't really avoid.
No.
So, again, from your personal and professional perspective, I mean, this tension between Orthodox religiosity or convictions and sexuality is not a new thing. Like, I didn't invent it, Mormons didn't invent it, right?
No.
It's definitely not new. But what if you can, what do you see as unique about what is perceived as the impasse? Why is there such a conflict in the Mormonism sexuality issue?
Well, Mormon theology from the late or mid 1840s onward assigned a specific theological value to marriage. Yeah. And heterosexual marriage wasn't companionate marriage, it was polygamous marriage in many instances. With the retreat from polygamy since the end of the 19th century, at least polygamy among the living, the institution of heterosexual marriage has been sacralized in a way that there's really not a ready comparison in other religious traditions. So Mormon kids are taught that, all Mormons are taught that if you take the gospel, if you take doctrine quite literally, which many Mormons do, at least that's the prevailing, way we talk about things at church.
We're encouraged to take it literally.
The highest levels of heaven, and we have, a graduated heaven, and there is no hell. In Mormonism.
Let's get that out there. Nice.
Attractive feature.
That's where we're all Mormons.
The highest levels of heaven, you have to be married to get there. And so to many people, this is a significant theological bar to full participation by LGBT people and to recognition of LGBT relationships. Now, do I think this is actually what most Mormons are thinking when they are being rude to their, gay coworkers or are giving money to Prop 8? No, I don't think most Mormons are thinking that hard. I think they're doing what they feel they need to do. I think they're acting within kind of safe zones of conservatism, and they're acting out the same thousands of years of homophobia that most people in America act out all the time. But that is a theological issue for anyone who thinks about, sexuality and Mormonism seriously.
Right. So, how do you see any gay Mormons working through that? Reconciling, or whatever the word, I don't know what the R word is yet.
I don't know either, because I'm married to a Jewish guy. I'm not going to that heaven.
Right. So?
I'll be okay.
Here's
the thing. Right. God is loving, and that's the thing. We Mormons, there's always some way that God's going to work it out in the end. That's a part of our faith too.
Yeah, that's true. It's very optimistic. Yeah.
It's going to work out. We believe in continuing revelation. We believe. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying there needs to be revelation on this. I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. You're not prescribing.
I'm not prescribing anything. Yeah. But Mormons are optimistic. Our faith is optimistic and open-ended. We believe that we will understand things better as time goes on. Right? That is part of our belief. So, there's a lot of things we don't have answers to yet. We just kind of, for me personally, I just kind of, okay, I don't know. We'll figure it out someday.
Yeah.
That doesn't really mean I can't be Mormon.
Right. It makes me
I'm just a Mormon with an issue.
Yeah. And there you go.
He's a really cute issue, though. Really great dad.
Nice.
Right? So.
Right on. Yeah, it makes me think of, I grew up understanding this concept. I don't know why I learned it at such an early age. My dad was a seminary teacher, maybe that's why. That we believe basically in all truth, everything that's true, right? We take all that's true, and that's part of our religion too. And I used to be very, very cynical, even through my teen years, like, well, that's easy. Well, duh. Like, I believe everything that's true. I was sort of in that mindset, still operating under a mindset of, well, it's black and white. And so, so it made me very cynical. But now it's like, oh, wow, that is so open-ended and optimistic. And we really do believe all that is true.
And those are my favorite Mormons.
Yeah.
Like country, Republican, rural Utah Mormons are like, it's all right.
Yeah.
They you run into folks who really know the tradition, and they're like, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't fret.
Yeah.
But, the other thing is, I don't know. There are other reasons for which a very literal understanding, look, to speak very technically, this idea of the highest level of heaven being a heterosexual union that results in the production of, spirit children that will populate another, realm of existence comes from 19th century speculative Mormon theology. It has an intellectual history.
Right.
We don't necessarily believe on all aspects of our faith as 19th century speculative theologians like Orson Pratt did.
Right.
This is the 21st century. Right.
Yeah.
We don't, So, there is room for more understanding.
Exactly.
Believe you me, if most women in the church really believed that they would spend the eternities pregnant, making spirit babies as one of several polygamous wives, you think we'd show up?
I kind of wonder why you do. Totally right. It's still in the
because we know God is merciful and half of God is female, so she's going to hook us up.
Right.
No one's going to be pregnant for eternity, right? Do we really believe that literal reproduction is the way that, there are, I don't want to take it too lightly. There are people who do believe that. There are people who love being pregnant.
Again, and Brigham Young again, it's like that was his
way
of explaining things.
So, it could be that, part of the soul searching that our entire culture undertakes will have to do with just thinking about our own theology. And there has always been innovative space within Mormon theology. We're actually a very elastic tradition.
Yeah.
We don't have a catechism.
Yeah, absolutely.